stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. 15 years. That's how long we've been married. My wife and I built a life together, a beautiful son, a thriving business, and a partnership that took us from barely scraping by to living comfortably. But all of that came crashing down one afternoon, and the story, well, it's not exactly a fairy tale. It all began to unravel when I started noticing the little things, subtle signs like the way she was always on her phone, late nights that couldn't be explained, and the sudden change in her wardrobe. At first, I brushed it off. We've been through so much together, growing our business from nothing to something successful. But the doubts nagged at me, eating away at the trust we had built. I tried to catch her in a lie, but she was always one step ahead, too careful. Eventually, I decided to hire someone, a private investigator. It felt wrong, like I was crossing a line, but I needed to know. A few days later, he handed me the information, the day, time, and place where I could catch her. Our country house, the one we barely visited, the one I had hoped would be our retreat, a place to relax and connect as a family. I felt crushed. Knowing what was coming didn't make it easier. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about what came next. Our son, our business, our life. How was I supposed to handle it? I felt helpless. Would we have to divide everything we worked for? The firm, the stores, the dreams? And her, knowing her, she'd probably try to take it all. That day, I drove out to the country house. My head was pounding, my heart racing. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. When I got there, I used my key and let myself in quietly through the garage. I could hear muffled laughter from the living room. My pulse quickened. I rounded the corner, and there they were, my wife and some guy. He looked young, maybe 10 years younger than us. Her laughter died when she saw me. What the hell is this? My voice came out harsher than I intended. The guy, let's call him Chad, looked like he'd seen a ghost. He stammered, I didn't know. I didn't let him finish. I took a step forward and, without thinking, threw a punch. He stumbled backward, tripping over the coffee table. Get out, I growled. He scrambled to his feet, muttering, I'm sorry, man, as he rushed out the door. For a split second, I was thankful I hadn't caught them in bed. I don't know what I'd have done. My wife stood there, staring at me with tears streaming down her face. We both knew the jig was up. I wanted to scream, yell, do anything to make the pain in my chest go away, but all I managed to ask was, what are we going to do now? She stayed silent, her lips quivering. Finally, she whispered, I'm so sorry. It didn't matter. The damage was done. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. Why would you do this to us? To our family? She wiped her tears, her eyes unable to meet mine. I don't know. I was lonely. You were always working, and I made a mistake. I shook my head, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. We both worked. We did this together for us, for our future. And this is how you repay me? She opened her mouth as if to say something, but then closed it again. There was nothing she could say to make it right. Fast forward a few weeks, and the dust has settled, sort of. We're still in the same house, but we're more like roommates than husband and wife. We didn't want to go through the headache of divorce, not yet anyway. The business is still ours, and for now, we're treating it like a joint venture. One night, as we sat across the table from each other, her eyes puffy from crying, she said, We'll make this work. For our son, we'll be partners, just business partners. I didn't argue. I didn't have the energy to fight. I looked at her and saw a stranger. The love of my life was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't recognize. I thought to myself, let her do whatever she wants. I'll find someone else, someone who might make me happy. And maybe someday, we'll finally go through with the divorce. We put on a show for our son. He's the only reason we're both still here, trying to coexist. He doesn't know the details. He just knows something's different. It breaks my heart. I've started drinking more than I should, trying to drown out the anger and sadness. I wish I could say it's helping, but the truth is, nothing really does. Some nights, I sit in the living room after everyone else has gone to bed, staring at old photo albums. There we are, young, happy, full of hope. Pictures from our first apartment, cramped and falling apart, But it didn't matter because we had each other. Photos of our son as a baby, his tiny hand wrapped around my finger. We were a team back then. Now, I feel like I'm just a player on the sidelines, watching my life unravel. One particularly bad night, I came home late, the taste of whiskey still on my tongue. She was waiting for me in the kitchen, her face lined with worry. "You're drunk," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I laughed bitterly. "What do you care?" I slurred. "You're the reason I'm like this." She flinched, and for a moment, I saw the woman I used to love, the one who supported me through thick and thin, who was my partner in everything. "I never wanted this," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Well, you did," I snapped, my anger bubbling to the surface. "And now we're both stuck here, pretending everything is fine when it's not." She reached out, her fingers brushing my arm. Maybe we can fix this. Maybe we can find a way back." I pulled away, shaking my head. There's no going back, not after everything. The days dragged on, and the silence between us grew louder. I threw myself into work, trying to avoid being home as much as possible. The office became my refuge, a place where I could escape the reality of my broken marriage. My employees must have noticed the change in me, but no one said anything. They just kept their heads down, doing their jobs while I tried to hold myself together. One day, as I was leaving the office, one of my colleagues, Mike, who had been with us since the early days, stopped me. "Hey, man, you doing okay? You don't seem like yourself lately." I'd forced a smile. "Just a lot on my plate, business stuff." He nodded, but his eyes were filled with concern. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. We've been through a lot together." For a moment, I considered opening up, telling him everything. But then I shook my head. "Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Maybe another time." I still remember when we were young, when we had nothing but each other and a dream. I wish I could go back to that time, but there's no turning back now. We're here, in this strange limbo, trying to figure out what's next. Did I do the right thing? Should I have kicked her out, fought for full custody, tried to take everything? I don't know. I'm not sure there's a right answer. All I know is that the woman I loved, the one I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, is gone. And I'm left here, trying to pick up the pieces of a life that feels like it's crumbling around me. Our son deserves better than this. He deserves parents who love each other, who are happy. I want to be that for him, but I don't know how. Not anymore. All I can do is keep moving forward, one day at a time, and hope that somewhere along the way, I find a reason to smile again.